Hello there. On the May retreat I learnt how to cry again. 2 weeks later, my integration begins in earnest. As usual, the book I'm reading, the TV series I'm watching, prove themselves to be helpful advisors. Sue Monk Kidd writes in her first novel, The Secret Life of Bees, page 185. I'll write it down. It's something everyone wants, for someone to see the hurt done to them and set it down like it matters. Yesterday was day 13 of my post-retreat integration. I'm on my own watching My Liberation Notes, a Korean TV show. The mother of the family just laid herself down on the floor and died after a day of unremitting hard work. Just like every other day, no days off, no holiday, since she got married more than 30 years ago. The family were in shock, stunned into silence until the funeral. Now they are loud in their lamentations, as only Koreans know how. This triggers me back in time to when I lived on my own in my mum's flat. I'm driving from Devon to Somerset to collect water from the Pitcombe Spring. The roads are deserted. Essential travel only. It's the first lockdown. My mum died a few weeks ago. I'm living in her flat by myself. I'm in shock, and so is everyone else. I will not be visiting anyone. Fill up the demijohns, drive back. Passing through the town Bruton, it feels like a ghost town. Nothing has prepared any of us for this. I remember when my mum broke a hip for the second time. The care home that was charging us over £1,000 a week to look after her informed me that they would not be taking her back. By this point, the Alzheimer's had her deep in its grip. What to do? Where does she go from hospital? Eventually, after a temporary stay in a home 1 town away from Sidmouth, we managed to find one in Somerset. My drive to get water reminded me of the drive to visit her in the latest care home. Instead of a 4-minute drive or a 20-minute walk to visit her most days in Sidmouth, I was down to a 1.5-hour drive each way to visit when I could muster up sufficient energy. I remember driving her from the care home to the pub in Nunny for a roast duck lunch, her last meal in the outside world. On my next visit, I had mastered the technique which provided me with enough energy to do the drive, a deep continuous breathing without pauses. I would do it for the entire 90 minutes. It helped enormously with my energy levels. The visit was unusual. My niece and my daughter were with us. When 3 p.m. arrived, my niece said it was time for her to go. By this point, Mum was on her end-of-life drugs. A few minutes later, my urge to leave is so great it's unbearable. I'm dimly aware that the longer I leave it after 3 p.m, the busier the roads will be. There's more to it than this, however. 20 minutes into the journey, deep in the breathwork, my phone rings. Instead of ignoring it as usual, I find a place to pull over. Sometime later, after the funeral, my daughter tells me how much she disliked my abrupt departure that afternoon. What I couldn't find the words for at the time was to explain how exhausting those drives were, how it took iron breathwork discipline to make it possible. I put the phone down. I close my eyes. I go within. I'm with my guides and my helpers on the forest floor of one of the safe healing places from which I work. Sitting in our deck chairs, we chat, we smoke, we prepare ourselves. We go to the care home, we see her. She is grey. It's the pharma drugs I can see, the morphine especially. I take 3 deep breaths. I blow the energy of the drugs away from her, up into the blue vortex. We take a moment to share the love. I see the light nearby. I chant, now you are free, now you are free, now you are free. As her spirit flies up into the light, I see Dad welcoming her. While alive, she did not want this. We laugh about it. She is welcomed by those in spirit who are waiting for this moment. There is a message. All is forgiven. All manner of things are forgiven. She's free, she's powerful, she's strong. I feel the light and the darkness. I comprehend the dark and the light. It is done. Days later, just after the funeral, the first lockdown begins. All this remembering while I'm driving back from Pitcombe Spring, Demijohn's Field. As the weeks on my own in a flat turn into months, my sister is my lifeline. Every week or two I drive over to visit her, just the other side of Exeter. I'm warmly welcomed. The fire is burning. We have a roast dinner with a son and daughter. United in our disbelief of the story they tell in the mainstream media, we sit close to each other. We laugh. We hug. We do what humans do, and it feels so good. Back in the block of flats, the isolation envelops me once again. I go walking to the sea every day. I strip off and I slip into the spaces between the waves, washing off the fear that engulfs the psychic emanations of the elderly residents of where I live. It helps. The year 2020 is one in which the great majority, worldwide, discovered what it feels like to be suddenly rendered powerless by a force outside of their control. Government-enforced isolations, antisocial distancing, sudden loss of workplace, entertainment facilities, access to shops, school, church, doctors, dentists, and so much more. A dystopian nightmare erupting into being around us all. Loved ones separated, people dying alone, funerals and weddings a pale shadow of their former selves. For me, this began days after my mum died. We just managed the funeral, with my brother prevented attending by reports of new cases streets away from his home. Thank God she missed it all, we said, to comfort each other. She would not have understood the words no visitors. The lockdowns gave everyone the experience of being abused by forces beyond their control. I remember the calls on Skype, FaceTime, Zoom, pretending this virtual connection was acceptable, feeling hurt, isolated, separated, shut away behind closed doors. I'm feeling the rage, the pain, the anguish. God, how it hurt. Now I can feel what I couldn't feel at the time. Stop. I take a deep breath. I look over at the fire, ash logs burning in the daytime. The yellow-orange flames comfort me. I feel my feet resting on the sheep fleece. A glass of spring water is in reach. My dinner will heat up soon enough. I direct my senses into my body. It asks me to stretch, to move, to feel its presence. All is well within and without. Directing my awareness into my heart, I feel safe, warm, loved. With my ears, I love the sound of the roaring of the flames. I feel the love that flows between us, our shared experiences, echoing down the timeline until our first meeting. Thank you for your presence in my life. I'm so grateful to you for all of our shared experiences. All the love between us and beyond. Keith.